Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to resilience, business continuity, disaster planning, crisis management, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Today is going to be an interesting show because I get to talk to some really high-profile individuals that I've actually had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing once before at a conference. I guess it would be 6 months ago now, if I recall correctly. And I want to welcome to the show Gayle and TJ Mead. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thank you, Alex. It's great to
Yeah.
be here.
It's great to have you here. Now, I know both of you work for Netflix, but Gayle, you wanted to say something before we got started.
Yes, Alex, thank you for that. So the comments, the conversation, or the discussion you're about to hear today are the personal opinions of Gayle and TJ, and do not reflect the beliefs, policies, or best practices that are owned by Netflix.
And nobody send me emails asking for specific questions when season 2 of something show will be released. Yeah, TJ and Gayle are not going to provide that information.
That is correct. Yes, we were not responsible for the slate.
That's right. Now, I know I've met you and I've talked to you before, but can each of you take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into this business? Gayle, let's start with you.
Awesome. Yeah, so Gayle Anders, I got into this business from a life and journey within the United States Marine Corps, where I served 20 years as an infantryman. And in that time, multiple deployments for combat, humanitarian assistance, disaster response, things of that nature, all of them outside of the United States, focused in mostly Asia and the Middle East. But through that effort, all that work that I was doing, uh, essentially prepared me for continuity planning, right? Because that's everything we do at the tactical level, the operational and strategic level for military units. We're always figuring out, okay, if this then does not work, what's our backup plan? What's our tertiary communications plan? Things of that nature. So then through that, I got my master's degree in emergency management, where I discovered what business continuity was in regards to it's a discipline in the civilian workforce, and I set my sights on becoming a business continuity professional. I got my CBCP from DRI and my MBCI from BCI. And then I'm also a member of the USA BCI board member for the chapter here. I've been doing business continuity in the corporate environment for 2.5 years. And that's how long I've been here with Netflix as the business continuity program manager.
Oh, welcome. TJ, how
Thank you.
about you?
Yeah, my path was a little bit different than Gail's. I was a break fix engineer for Unisys in the data center for a bit. I happened to meet a guy who was part of Accenture's consulting arrangement with EMC at the time. He said, "Hey, we need some folks with data center and technical experience." I then joined Accenture as a consultant, doing primarily data center migrations, consolidations, moves, what have you. Um, and I came in through the disaster recovery route because they said, "Hey, you have data center knowledge. How about this DR thing?" So like many folks on the DR side, came in through the technical route. As my career progressed, I did lots of business continuity, management consulting. Um, I then did some retraining in cybersecurity, did that for a bit. Um, I left consulting after many, many years. Right about the time Dell bought EMC, I left. I was then the director of disaster recovery for Royal Bank of Canada globally for a bit. My wife and I then relocated to the Bay Area. So I was with AWS, specifically running disaster recovery, engineering, scaling, and slash events capacity for Twitch, and doing some advisory stuff for Prime Video as well around disaster recovery. I was there for a while, and then I've been with Netflix about just over 3 years now, running the technical continuity side of things.
Oh, welcome, TJ. Great to
I
have
also dabble in barbecue as well on the side, when it
you.
doesn't keep me busy.
Well, you're only down the road from me, so feel free to stop by with something.
Sure.
Now, it's really interesting to have someone from IT and business continuity all on the same episode. Usually it's one or the other, and the two don't often work close together, even though they say they should. Now, I know the two of you do work close together. You're traveling together, you've spoken at conferences together. How did that happen? How did you guys make that happen?
You want me to go first, Gail?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, Alex, have you interviewed Scott Baldwin?
I think I have
Okay.
years
So
ago.
your listeners may be familiar with Scott Baldwin from that. Scott brought me over from Twitch and AWS with the mandate of, hey, let's figure out how to do continuity differently. Let's rethink what is absolutely necessary, what fits the unique culture around Netflix. And as he and I started to dig into it initially, we realized that it being treated separately, completely, wholly separately within the culture of Netflix just wouldn't work. Like we would need to come at it from a combined approach. And as we started to dig into the details, that's about the time that Gail joined us, and Gail started leading the business continuity side of things. We realized that there was a lot of overlap in the question sets that we would ask, and a lot of the way that we were going about preparing internally for both of our different components. We didn't. It was my choice to not call it disaster recovery, specifically calling it technical continuity, because, well, disaster recovery has some pretty specific connotations
Mm,
within our engineering space. I wanted to keep it at a higher level and a more encompassing level than that, so we called it technical continuity. And with that, um, it really aligned very closely with the work that Gail was doing and the work that I was doing. So it just made more sense for us to attack this together rather than go two different paths.
hmm. Gail?
Yeah, so plus one to everything TJ said. The So right now we sit in engineering, and that's a very un that's not that's an anomaly when you look at where business continuity or technology continuity reports into. In other companies, generally reports up to the highest level is the CFO. For us, we report into the chief technology officer. Now, if you look at the product line of Netflix, though, it makes sense because from a product line perspective, the only thing our remit was make Netflix more resilient.
Mm,
Cool, what do we start with? Okay, so let's focus on the things that actually generate revenue. Streaming content at that time was the number one product for Netflix. So sitting in there and understanding all of the services and applications that allow that function to happen to keep our customers at home happy was crucial to my understanding from the business perspective of understanding how our systems are deployed in the AWS environment, how certain things work and all that good stuff. So that now when I sit on the business side with finance or HR or whoever the respective person or individual is, and they reference a certain piece of technology, I understand exactly where that sits in the ecosystem. And more importantly, I understand how critical that service or that application may
mhm,
be. So, from a shared understanding, there's like TJ can sit in the room and he can speak to business and technology. I can sit in the room and I can speak to business and technology because we spend so much time together and we work very much hand in hand to approach. And to keep in mind, Alex, like it's just the two of us. There is no like cadre of staff or any steering committee that
oh,
we can
no?
leverage to do any of this work. It's just me and TJ. So that understanding, that shared situational awareness for the business helps us maintain that force multiplier function for the different leaders.
PJ,
For what it's worth, we do occasionally have some help from an intern, but that is a very situational thing. Um, yeah.
Wow. To be honest, I thought you both had a couple of people reporting to you and were bigger teams. So even though you
Think-
probably would both like that. What I
Absolutely.
did like that you said there, TJ, is the changing the name from IT disaster recovery, which has connotations, even disaster planning, or disaster recovery has connotations, in emergency management, because they have their view. I know, and Gayle, you probably remember that too. When it comes to disaster recovery or disaster planning, they see it in a certain light. I really liked how you changed everything to continuity, because it makes it seem as though you are one team with a specific focuses, but one team. And I liked how that brings together instead of two different names, and then you're always kind of, no matter what you do, you're on different sides.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just by names, you brought them together. Were
Well,
there?
I mean,
Oh,
Alex, I
go
think
ahead.
you've talked to us before. It was DRJ. We
Yes. Yep.
actually started out with a different name. We were called Enterprise Resilience, and we lost so much time with our customers because we had to explain, well, how are you different than the 4 or 6 or 12 other resilience teams there are in the organization?
Mhm.
Some of them could be operational resilience or technical resilience or this or that. And we decided if we just changed the name, would that resonate better with customers? And it immediately, the light bulb went off in their head. They said, oh my gosh, I totally understand what you do now.
Wow,
So
that's
it's just,
amazing.
yeah, just that terminology saved us 30 minutes, right, Gail, per conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's amazing what one small change can do. Now, based on that, bringing just the two of you, business and IT, bring them together, were there challenges? Because you just kind of hinted at it, TJ, by saying part of resilience and then explaining what that is. So, were there other challenges in getting people to understand that you're really in it for them and bringing people together?
Go for it, Gail.
Yeah. So as far as challenges internal for me and TJ, the great thing is like we get along great, and that really helps us leverage two different programs under one umbrella. So that is absolutely a good benefit of that. For our external challenges, I think the biggest thing that comes to mind is basically coming to an agreement on our question sets for the different assets that we assess was our biggest, because it's just me and TJ, and it's nice when I can say no, other people collaborated in this effort. So with our question sets for our different assets, we spoke to the senior individuals for those respective areas here at the business and said, hey, do you care about this question, right? Because I'm going to take points away from you if you answered it in the negative. uh, Another thing we looked at is, hey, are you already answering this question somewhere else? Because generally speaking, when somebody does a BIA, they're asking like a couple sets of questions, can be in the hundreds, right? So that helped us narrow it down. I think our longest survey is like 26 questions, but we're able to say, we know that, hey, that question that we did care about that we didn't end up using is already being asked by the risk assessment team. So we will pull that information from them, or a security team is already asking that question, or facilities assessment team is asking that question. So we know where all the data is, and that helps us make informed decisions and opinions about the assets we're assessing. Now, that, Alex, that took quite a bit of a time, and also getting the consensus and understanding so that when we do get pushed back now and say, look, why do we care about multi-region deployment? Well, hey, listen, here's the 9 engineers who said that this was important, and you can go have a conversation with them. It never has gotten to that point, but that was our idea, right? That your leaders have already decided that this is important, and now we're just here to implement and maintain the program. I'd say the other challenge for me is just the excessive turnover, right? We deal with a lot of turnover here. We meet with people, we plant seeds usually in Q1 of every year. And then we say, hey, listen, when does it make sense for this work to occur? And they'll say, hey, Q3 is perfect because we just submitted whatever the thing is and we have some free space. Well, we'll meet with that individual in Q3 and they don't work here, or the team doesn't exist and the team falls under a different leader, and those assets are now with a different team. So that is a challenge for us that we've gotten better at maintaining a pulse on everything that we've looked at and that we're planning to look at, so we can get that feedback to say, hey, no, there's a change, and now either we need to go have another conversation to see if this is still applicable or still an option. So I would say those are the two challenges that come to mind for me.
Yeah, I would add to that, at the very beginning, we understood that there was a cultural component to the company that was different than most, and that is the concept of freedom and responsibility. So no one at the company is mandated or required to participate in anything that Gayle and I are doing. So it was literally a sales pitch from day one that it took us, what, Gayle, a year and a half to get to a point where people were like, oh, okay, I understand the benefit to me. Um, and how this helps me do better with the things that I'm ultimately responsible for. So there was that, but then the other associated piece of this that I want to make sure we touch on, and it's not a challenge for us, but I know that it's for sure a challenge with a lot of our fellow practitioners out there. Um, Ownership of who's responsible for plans, right? Who's responsible for plans? Who's responsible to ultimately own all the things related to business continuity, technical continuity, disaster recovery, whatever. Um, I think we've all been in organizations where it's like, oh no, the DR team, they're supposed to write all the plans for me. And the BC teams, they write all the plans for me. I just
Mm.
like I do my little piece and they own all that. That's not how things work here. And that has been very refreshing for me as somebody who ran a DR team, and owned was ultimately responsible for those DR plans. Uh, Here it's they're responsible for the plans. Gayle and I are here to make sure that all the checks and balances are in place for them to get the most out of it and be ready when something unexpected does happen. So that shift of ownership
Mhm.
is definitely a challenge that we don't have to face as much here. But there's still the uphill battle. There's a constant uphill battle from a cultural perspective that if we're not valuable to all of our customers, then they don't have to participate and ultimately
Yeah.
we won't exist. So
Well, I've got a couple of questions for you based on what you both just said. We've come to the end of our first segment. Today, we are talking with Gayle Anders and TJ Mead from Netflix, talking about business continuity and disaster recovery, or technology continuity, I should say. And we will be right back. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.